Hello and welcome. The goal of this podcast is to get listeners connected with others in the sports industry because they say it's all about who you know, and now you know us. Well, hello and welcome, Constant Sports Podcast viewers and listeners. Today we are joined by Jake Whiting. Thanks for stopping by today, Jake.
Of course, thanks for having me.
So we are going to do a little bit of a background for the listeners here about Jake, and he's been working in the sports industry for a while now. So Jake is a former Division I collegiate athlete with over 10 years of sports marketing experience. Jake has also worked in the event management, project management, developing campaigns in the sports industry, entertainment industries, along with he earned his bachelor's degree in marketing from Quinnipiac University, also with his master's degree in sports industry management from Georgetown University. And then Jake also, as we were talking to a little bit before we started the podcast, he has a photography company here called Fifth Edition Photography, where he's heavily involved in sports photography in the local Southern California area. So I'm sure we'll talk about that a little bit more as we go. But anything you want to add or touch base on?
No, I think you kind of covered it there, Connor. So I appreciate the intro, and I'm happy to be here and get talking about networking in the sports industry. So feel free to kick it off.
Great. Yeah, appreciate it. Thanks again for coming on. And so we'll just start out kind of with your education and what made you kind of want to get your master's at Georgetown? Was it specifically for the sports, industry, or did you have other programs you were looking at? Kind of give us the background on that.
Sure. So as a graduating senior from Quinnipiac, I knew I wanted to work in sports, and ended up at a sports marketing conference, actually hosted by Georgetown at the time, called the Sports Marketing Event Management Conference. And they had a panel talking about the program. It was relatively new at the time, and so I applied to it. Actually, didn't get in the first time. Started working at Reebok and Fenway Sports Management shortly after that. So I built up my resume before applying again a few years later, and ended up getting in that time. So it was kind of one of those things that worked out and worked out for the best for me.
Yep. So just resiliency, and obviously building your resume obviously would help, like you said, getting that second acceptance in there. So that's a good story there. Excuse me. And then what was your biggest takeaway from Georgetown, or just I guess in your time in that program?
Sure. I mean, the program was amazing. It's Georgetown. You're right in the heart of DC. It was such a fun place to be. The program itself was top notch, but it's funny. I don't entirely remember all of the classwork and some of the program, but the biggest thing for me was certainly the networking and the confidence building that came out of it for me. It was, all of the professors were adjunct professors working in the industry. All of the students were either in or getting into the industry. So it was just a great place to network, meet people, learn the ins and outs of the whole industry. And it was just a really, really good time.
Yeah, no, I agree there. And as a recent graduate, I think I echo that kind of same sentiments where it wasn't so much about the schoolwork per se, the homework. It was more just who you're meeting and the speakers coming in, people you can connect with. And I think, most can agree with that. That's kind of the reason you go to, get
For
your
sure.
And then speaking of that networking line, were there certain events, certain socials that you went to at Georgetown? And then have you been able to keep those relationships up within the past 10 years? And how have you done that?
Yeah, so it was an interesting program. You could either do it as quickly as a year or up to 5 years. So you constantly had different students at different points in the program. So every semester it was turnover in and out, people finishing, just starting, which is kind of nice though, because you got to meet more people that way. And I've definitely kept in touch with a few people. Definitely a few professors you check in with from time to time, see how they're doing. They check in on you, which is always really nice. But yeah, no, I've been able to work with a few people now with my role at OGIO, Seattle Kraken, NFL Players Association, PGA Tour, PGA of America, just to name a few where fellow graduates are currently working that we've worked together. So it's been kind of nice to keep in touch with them and work with them again outside of the classroom.
Yeah, no, that's cool. And that's kind of one of the things I'm looking forward to is I go on my careers, in 10, 15 years to kind of reconnect and see who's where and how that's all going to play out. Yes, I'm looking forward to that as well. And then how have you seen your master's degree since you've obtained it? How have you seen that, I guess, in your career has been beneficial? Do you, do have employers asked you about it, kind of that type of stuff?
Sure. Yeah, I think, it's not something that comes first, top of mind when I'm applying to places.
Hmm.
But it definitely comes up. It's usually asked about more frequently than my undergrad,
Yeah.
just from a separator in other applicants to positions and things like that. So I definitely think it's helpful. I don't think it's the be all end all.
Yep.
It definitely, I think, also has given me a lot of confidence in applying for jobs and in my
Hmm.
career. Being able to say, yeah, I did my master's, it's Georgetown on the resume. So it's definitely it's super helpful, but I wouldn't say it's a necessity. In sports, it's such a tight knit community. It's really more about who
Right.
you know than where what school you went to. Because every job you end up, you get kids and fellow coworkers that didn't do masters. They didn't
Yeah.
necessarily go to the top name undergrad schools. So it's helpful, but not it's not a requirement by any means.
Yeah. No, yeah, of course. And like you're saying, it's more just kind of putting it on the resume, and so you can
Hmm.
show the future employer, like, hey, I did this extra, kind of work to get where I am, and that type of stuff.
Yeah, it's also just a great thing to be able to talk about your experience, the people you met, the teams you worked with.
Hmm.
So just from that standpoint, it's more fodder during the interviews.
Yeah. No, yeah, I'm with you there. And then so as you kind of went through your program there, and then why did you get into the sports industry? Why, did you want to be you were a hockey player? Did you want to be a pro hockey player, and then you turned to the sports industry? Kind of how'd that come about?
Sure. So born and raised in Boston, sports are your life. You
Yep.
breathe and sorrow with the Red Sox and the Bruins and the Pats for years, but we've been lucky enough with them for the last decade. So sports is always what I wanted to get into, and I played sports my whole life. Um, Early on, I knew quite quickly that the chances of getting a pro contract was very, very, very slim. So I started to look for ways to get involved. I worked for a travel baseball team when I was in high school to try and get the feel of working in a front office.
Hmm.
And then when I went to Quinnipiac as a student, initially I was a team manager for my since freshman year, just to be involved with the team, get involved, see what it's like, do the travel arrangements and video breakdown and recruiting, sending out flyers, things like that. And was lucky enough to walk on my junior and senior year as a backup goalie, which was an incredible experience. So from the get-go, I knew I wanted to work in sports. It's something I live and breathe, and I've always wanted to be a part of. And so it kind of just unfolded that way, and made sure that I was looking for opportunities and talking to people and getting to know people. But definitely, a dream come true for me. And some of the organizations I've worked for, some of the top names in sports. So it's been a very lucky, humbling journey so far.
Yeah. Awesome. Great. That's a great story. And I was looking at your LinkedIn, and I kind of was reading that, and now it's kind of cool to hear the kind of the full circle and how that all came
Yeah,
about.
it's been awesome.
Awesome. And so, how did you kind of mentioned, obviously, you got your kind of career trajectory here, but how did you get your first foot in the door? Was it a connection? Was it a cold call in the sports industry?
All connections to kind of get your resume at the top of the pile. I
Hmm.
won't try and hide that. That's kind of what
Yeah.
you have
No.
to
Yeah.
do in sports.
Yeah.
But you have to have the resume, the skills, the personality to back that up. Getting your name to the top of the resume list is only going to get you so far.
Of course.
The travel baseball team family. My brother played in the organization, and I got to know the owner of the team. I had a connection, get my name to the top at Fenway Sports Management to kind of get my foot in the door there. But again, you have to kind of do the work and um, prove yourself. Otherwise, it's that connection's no good. So um, connections are step one, but then again, putting in that hard work and showing results is key.
Yeah. No, it's huge, and like you said, the name or who can only get you so far. Obviously,
Exactly.
unless it's like the Carolina Panthers owner, that's different. But to get to the top, and then you kind of got to do the rest of the legwork. But it's the networking, it's the connections, it's who and how you can utilize those connections to get you in a strategic position to then move forward.
For
I think
sure.
is the critical part. And so how let's say we have a student, he or she just graduated, with their master's or what have you, and they have a connection that got them to the top of, the resume list.
Yep.
How do you, what do you have any keys or tips as they're preparing for an interview? Or what are some things you did when you, were being interviewed by Reebok and the Fenway Sports Group, stuff like that?
Sure. It doesn't help to come in and be like, I love baseball. I really want to work for the Red Sox. I love the Red Sox. Every single name in that
Right.
pile is
Yeah.
the same way.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't even bother bringing that up. Obviously you're going to love the sport or the team if you're applying there. Oftentimes there's, even at OGIO and Callaway where I work now, there's people that don't play golf, but are there and
Yeah.
doing a really, really good job. So it's not always necessarily the best fit if you're a fan, because you're not going to end up loving working there necessarily. But no, some things you can kind of do is look at the about page, or the job description, see different buzzwords they're using, see if you can kind of hone in your cover letter, about their brand ethos, and show that you'd be a really good cultural fit. I've just found that a lot of hiring managers will hire people that they like and or think will be a good fit for the company or their team, rather than the smartest, the most, talented employee, because some of those hard skills can be taught. It's a lot of the soft skills that can't necessarily. So just trying to find, ways to connect with the brand, show that you're the type of applicant that they're looking for. I think those are two, some big ones. And then also I think just trying to connect with your hiring manager, thinking of ways that you can, before you even get in, or show them that you are the applicant, pretend that you've already gotten the job, come to them with a few ideas, show value in yourself. Don't worry about them stealing your ideas. They're not going to do that. They're big organizations. But definitely show that you bring value to the table and not just a fan of the team.
Right. Yeah, and kind of what you're saying there at the end is doing your research and your homework, especially on the hiring manager, knowing kind of where they, their background, and maybe you have a connection to them. Maybe if they went to, University of Colorado and, your dad went to Colorado or something, there's always some connection you can make, and kind of as an icebreaker, just kind of, feeling it out. So I think that's huge. The homework, knowing what the company's about, the culture, kind of the buzzwords, like you said, and if they have a mission statement, obviously knowing kind of what they're about. You don't want to go in there and just say, I love, tennis, here I am. Well, so does everybody else, like you're saying.
Exactly.
So we're all in the same spot there. So that's huge, as for the listeners out there that are graduating, going into that those are some important tips to use. And then as you're in your current position, you're the marketing manager. What do you enjoy most about your profession? I guess just as being a marketing manager currently.
Sure. I'm going to skip through some of your questions that you sent over previously, because these are kind of all embedded in there. But I kind of love the fact that every day is a little different. OGIO is a small team. We've got about 12 to 14 total headcount, between the product side, marketing, and sales. So you wear a lot of different hats, and I kind of love that about it. You're getting to do press releases, you're getting to do content creation, you're getting to do photo shoots, you're doing I focus a lot on partnerships as well. So it's really every day is different. You're always doing different little activities, different things. So I think that's one of the best parts about where I work now in the sports industry. It's definitely an industry where you have to be ready and willing to work late, work weekends, roll up your sleeves. When I was at Reebok on the events team, there were, events that I was unloading pallets off a 50-foot truck, for CrossFit Games. So there's so many ways to get involved. There's so many different ways, to show that you bring value, and different ways to kind of, have your career unfold the way you want it to. So that, I think those are some of the best things about what I do now, and things that I love about my career.
Yeah, that's awesome. And then, as we were talking before we went live here, you started to do photography on the side, kind of built that up. And you mentioned you're bringing value. So how'd that all come about? You're a marketing manager, but now you're kind of doing some photography, and how'd that all go together?
So in high school, I took photography kind of as one of the art electives. I liked it, but it was, old school film photography and darkroom. During the pandemic, during quarantine, I on YouTube University, which is a wealth of knowledge and
Yep.
free education, which I highly recommend any different skill set you want to learn. I taught myself digital photography. I bought a camera, started walking around when you could with a mask on, and was taking photos, and slowly started teaching myself more and more. Tried to do little laydowns and product photography. Um, and when I got to Ogio, we didn't have a dedicated photographer. And just quickly offered, I can do this, so let me try. I can do that. Let me do this. Let me kind of experiment with that. And it's definitely brought extra value to my position now. So on top of that, with some of the partnership conversations that I'm having in fulfillment and activation side, I'm at a lot of these events with our partners, taking photos of our brand ambassadors or product photography, lifestyle shoots. So it's just been an incredible, added dimension for my career and my skill set, just to keep growing and developing. And, for the next employer, whoever that may be, whenever that may be, here's something else I can do. Here's why I'm better than candidate X, Y, or Z. So definitely, always learning and teaching yourself new skills through different resources like YouTube, LinkedIn, through other, different services like that. Udemy is another one. You can get some free content. So I highly recommend teaching and increasing your value over time.
Yeah, of course. And just to echo that, I think, kudos to you to kind of find how you could bring value. And I'm sure that that's, your employers and the bosses are looking at that and like, well, look what Jake's doing. And that's just awesome. And anyone that out there, there's always something else, you can do. You got to focus on your main job. But I think there's always some sort of angle you can kind of bring in, whether,
Exactly.
how you can bring value. Don't go out and start, some random thing and try to bring it in. That's not going to, mix well, of course. But
Exactly. It's got to balance with your day to
yeah,
day.
yeah, it's got to fit in with the job you're doing and to make that work. So yeah, you kind of mentioned on your day to day, so just wearing a lot of hats, going through that. But is there a certain routine, certain like you wake up, do this, or is it like you said, just kind of you got check marks and things to do, or how does that work for
Sure.
you?
Um, I'm also, it's funny, I like wearing a lot of hats and having flexibility in my schedule, but I'm also very routine based.
Hmm.
So I always kind of try and wake up at the same time, do the same stuff in the morning, get up, quickly check my email, make sure there's no, fires to put out,
Yeah.
have a cup of coffee, head to the office, and then kind of start my day, clearing the inbox, getting through some of the quick, easy things from the night before.
Hmm.
We have a market manager in Europe, so there's 6 hours ahead of us. So
Oh, wow.
there's certain things you can get done quickly and check off the lists. The other thing to note is I'm a big list guy. I love that tactile feeling of
Yeah,
crossing
just
things
crossing
off
it
the
off.
list. Yeah.
Yep.
But kind of just going through and setting my schedule throughout the rest of the day, what I want to accomplish that day, what I have to get done by the rest of the week. Communicating a lot with my coworkers and my boss of, hey, what's priority one, what's kind of can be put in the back burner, and just kind of making sure we're progressing and hitting timelines. The other thing that I do a lot, and have been doing more and more, is blocking off my schedule for myself. So I'll
Hmm.
put in a little meeting invite for myself, put an hour in there and say, all right, I'm going to take care of our US ski and snowboard partnership, and I'm only going to focus on that.
Just yeah.
It's really easy when you're multitasking. It's funny, everyone says you can multitask, but it's you can't actually. You're focusing on one item at a time.
Right.
You just go back and forth between it. So I try to really just do nothing but partnerships for US ski and snowboard for 1 hour, and
Hmm.
then the next hour I'll go to the next one, or I'll start working on that press release I need to work on. So I found that that's actually been very helpful to segment and block my schedule, just to, again, to keep you focused. You set parameters for yourself. All right, I'm going to stick 1 hour. It's a very 6-second video type mentality here now, and with millennials and Gen Z. So if it helps force you to focus on that one item for that 1 hour throughout the day,
Hmm.
great. You'll have a better
Perfect.
focus, better concentration, and I've just found a lot of success in doing that.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. It's the calendar and the routine. I'm a cross off type of guy as well. It's so important because especially with today's, there's always news or stuff coming in, flood your inbox, flooding the internet that you can just be shooting around all day, and then you look up and it's 5 o'clock, and you're like, well,
E-
I just missed out on all the stuff I was supposed to do because I was bouncing
Exactly.
around, and you never actually finish anything. You just kind of were checking things off. So yeah, I'm all about the check. I put some boxes and check them off, and I'm all for that. In the day to day life. Kind of one of the last things regarding your job. What are some essential skills, maybe like two or three skills that they can be soft skills or hard skills that are essential for your job, or I guess just in the sports industry in general?
Sure. Just kind of in general across the board, I think some of the top three are communication, organization, and prioritization.
Hmm.
Again, even, events team at Reebok, multiple events planning throughout the year all at one time, being able to organize those, figuring out what's the most important, what things you have to get done this week versus a month from now. Do you get the things done that are super easy but aren't due for a month, or do you
Yeah.
start, swallow the frog, if you will,
Hmm.
and get the hard things out of the way? So that's, a key thing. And then communication. Whenever I've looked at the sports industry, I always use sports analogies and,
Hmm.
teamwork and communication. And you're going to have players on your team that are better at certain things than you are, and vice versa. So it's important to communicate, make sure you know who's doing what, so that way things don't fall through the cracks, or you don't double up on work. So I would say those are kind of the top three across any job in any department at any company, but are super important in sports and career in general. So super soft skills, things that you kind of learn over time just through experience, but again, instrumental in being successful as a team and as a brand or at an agency or anything like that.
Yeah, no, I echo that as well. And those are all skills that you can work on daily. You can practice that, but then also if you
Mhm.
don't work on, they can go the other way. So just things to keep in mind, yeah,
Yeah.
as you're going through. Well, yeah, I got a few more questions here. They're just like kind of a no huddle. So I
Yeah.
appreciate the time you've taken so far, and we'll just finish off here with some quick hitters. So who's your favorite LinkedIn connection that either like provides good information or just kind of it's like a celebrity or something like that?
So LinkedIn, I think, is an amazing resource. I look at it multiple times throughout the day. I think it's an amazing resource for information, news articles, updates. So in general, I love LinkedIn.
Hmm.
But I think Front Office Sports does a really good job of posting different resources, information, updates, sort of the business side of things. So I'd say those Front Office Sports is probably the number one thing that I kind of pick out on LinkedIn.
Yeah, no, I'm with you, and they have a lot of good certifications you can get, and stuff
Yep.
like that are out there that are easy to get, and put in some work, and you can add those to your LinkedIn and resume. Who is the greatest hockey player of all time?
So I was a goalie, so I'm not going to say player. I'm going to go with the goalie route.
Okay.
And it's the first triumvirate of Dominic Hasek, Patrick Waugh, Martin Brodeur. You cannot go wrong with any of them as the greatest goalies of that generation. All completely different styles, so passionate and just amazing to watch. And then I'm going to throw a bone to Ricky DiPietro from Boston, went to
Okay.
BU.
Okay. Yeah.
First ever goalie, went number one in the draft. So I got a soft spot for Ricky. He didn't have the career that he would have hoped, but
Long laugh. Yeah.
um, I would say those are kind of my. I had posters of all of them on my walls growing up, and my goalie
those
idols.
those are the goalies. Okay. Gotcha. Gotcha. I'm sure all the goalies out there appreciate the plug there.
Hey, we're a
Um,
weird bunch. We need love.
yeah. No, I always think of like goalies kind of like in football as like the offensive linemen. Like they're always kind of there. They're a very important
Yeah,
part of the game. But like everyone's always looking at, the attackers or the quarterbacks, and then the goalies and like the
always.
offensive linemen are always kind of to the side, and they're the weirdos.
Yep.
And then what is your favorite book?
I mean, beyond the cliche, Brave New World or Catcher in the Rye,
Hmm.
uh, I've actually been getting back into reading a lot, and just finished a book that I loved, and I would also recommend it for anybody listening. It's The Last Lecture by Randy Pausch. It's
Okay.
about a professor who had, it's true, he was dying of pancreatic cancer and wanted to leave a testament to his kids, who were gonna, were very little when he died, but
Hmm.
very digestible, short chapters, very relatable leadership skills, life lessons that he kind of learned along the way. Highly, highly recommend. It's kind of just re-inspired me. I read it just before Christmas, so
Okay.
definitely recommend reading it. It's a great book.
Yeah, good to know. I'll add that to the list myself as well. What's your favorite marketing project you've worked on? It can be with OGO or I guess just in
Sure.
general.
Uh, so so in the events world, when I was at Reebok, there were some incredible events we got to do every year. CrossFit Game was such an incredible project, doing
I
different
bet.
activations, building out a 200,000 square foot retail booth, doing the formatting's changed from year to year now, but we used to do 3 weeks in a row of CrossFit semifinals leading up to the games, same kind of build, but that was always a blast and fun, and the travel was great. Another one I got to do was our global brand summit meeting in Barcelona with all of the Reebok accounts. We took over the W
Oh, nice.
Hotel, did build outs in all the rooms based on market, different size of shop and shops. There was a fashion show and general session. There was a fitness event, a closing party. So again, those
Yeah.
events they're a blast. They're a ton of work. You lose a lot of sleep. You're dirty, sweaty, cranky, but they're so much fun. And to see, these ideas stretch from ideas on a piece of paper to these massive events where people are having a great time and
Yeah.
enjoying themselves, and a big part of the business objectives. It's really kind of rewarding to see.
Closing in, what advice would you give someone who is just starting a career in sports?
Okay, so this one I can speak to from experience, and it has actually worked for me and got me where I am today at OGIO.
Perfect.
As you're getting ready to graduate or for your next job, um, go on LinkedIn, find somebody that has a similar title that you would like to have,
Hmm.
works at a brand that you want to work at, send them an invite. Don't do the little generic, I'd like to connect. Put in there you'd like to connect, that you like their career, you'd love to chat with them, take 10-15 minutes of their time, set it up like a informational interview, offer
Yeah.
them a cup of coffee if you need to. um, Reach out. People in the sports industry love helping other people wanting to get in the sports industry. They love chatting, they love paying it forward. um, it's actually how I got to OGIO 2 years ago. I reached out to a marketing manager at OGIO, said,
Mhm.
hey, I'd love to chat with you. We had a 30-40 minute talk. A year later, a job was posted. Then the pandemic happened. But then after the pandemic, sort of, it's not really over, but um, a job opened up. Reached out. He put in my name for the interview, and now I'm a marketing manager at OGIO. But seriously, it's one of those things that feels uncomfortable, reaching out and being like, hey, I want to talk to you about your career, and
Mhm.
some awkward silence and some, you know, you end up asking obvious questions, and they're like, did you not read my bio? But again, it's more about getting to know them, getting your name out there, and so that way, when you do apply, they'll remember you, and you're not
Yep.
just a name on a piece of paper.
Hmm.
And when you have these conversations, add value. Again, add value. Show them how much you know about the industry or the team, or um, different unique ways that other brands are activating or coming to market with campaigns. Show that you've done your homework, and demonstrate that you're not a name on a paper. You never know. It's one of those
Yep.
things where they might not be able to do anything for you right now, and you don't want to ask
Hmm.
them to do anything for you right now,
Yeah, I was
because
just gonna say that. Yeah.
yeah, don't go into this thinking to, hey, and I'd love a job. Don't
Yeah.
even bother asking. Just say thank you and wrap up. And
Yeah.
then, as you see a job open in the future, that's when you can be like, hey, we talked about X, Y, and Z. I'd love a chance to work there. What's the culture like? So it's a great way to learn about people, their career trajectories, how they got to where they are, about the brand, the culture, all that kind of stuff. That's the number one thing I can recommend people looking to get into the sports industry do is just reach out, get to know people, network as
Yep.
much as you can, get out of your comfort zone, take 5-10 minutes. That's all it takes.
Yep. No, I'm with you there. And one thing I'd also add is I would say it builds your skills, your communication skills, your networking skills.
Yeah,
Just reaching out and talking to some random person you ever met too. And it works for both ways. Like if you're you're gracious enough to talk to me in the podcast
for
where
sure.
it's building your skills, it's building my skills, and also I think it's just huge just in the networking kind of whole realm itself. Kind of you never know who you're going to connect with and who might go where, and you might go to some other company in 5 years, and
Yep,
in 5 years, one of the listeners might be, you just never know, like you're saying. You never know who you could
exactly.
be connected with or who's connected to who. So, and you might
Yeah.
as well just kind of plant the seed and, keep planting the seeds and keep working at it.
But and I'll say the key to all this though is follow up.
Yep.
So every 6 months, every quarter, just
Mhm.
sending a quick hello, how are you doing? Because that if you just come out of the woodwork when you need something or want something,
Not a good look.
they'll see
Yeah.
right through it.
Yeah.
So stay on top of it and follow up is huge.
No, yeah, I'm with you. Follow up, stay in touch, add value. All those are very important. Well, we appreciate you taking your time today and talking to us. How can others get connected with you and follow your work over at Fifth Edition?
Sure. As we've just been talking about, reach out on LinkedIn,
Mhm.
send me a note, say hello, let me know how you can help. Find me on Instagram. My photography Instagram is @fifth_edition_photos. Do a lot of sports stuff. Been doing some photography for OGO. Reach out there, send me a DM. However you can reach out, I will respond. I'm not one of those people that will just ignore notifications. So happy to help. And again, Connor, thanks for having me on here. It's been great to kind of talk through all of this with you, the sports industry, my career. Again, always trying to pay it forward and help others kind of get into the industry and on their sports journey.
Yeah, no, appreciate it, and I can confirm that he was very responsive when I reached out, just randomly reached out and said, hey, I was looking at your career and your LinkedIn, and you messaged right back and connected. So yeah, we appreciate it, and we're looking forward to following you in your sports journey and to see the cool projects and things you're doing over there at OGO. So
Appreciate
appreciate
it.
it. Thanks again. Hey, you know what they say. It's all about who you know. And now, Jake Whiting. Hey, you know what they say. It's all about who you know. And now, Jake Whiting.